Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar to look at editable grids and a series of other recent additions to Microsoft Dynamics. I'm Warren Butler, and joining me to lead the presentation this afternoon is my colleague Daniel Hunter. Just a few bits of housekeeping before we get started. We've set all the lines to mute to remove background noise, but please do use the chat panel to ask any questions, and we'll be going through those at the end of the session. We are recording this presentation, so either later on today or tomorrow we'll send through a recording, and you'll also find it on our YouTube channel as well. The webinar is scheduled to run for about 30 minutes. Editable grids are the main focus for the live demo this afternoon, but we will also cover some other new functions in CRM and share examples of how these are being used. And as I said, before we wrap up, we'll do a quick Q&A session, and I'll also touch on the transitioning process for Dynamics 365, and we'll share some resources around that as well. So a very quick introduction for the benefit of anyone that's not currently working with Preact. We're a CRM partner working with Microsoft Dynamics. Established in 1993, we now support well over 5,000 CRM users. We focus purely on the CRM market, and we've got Microsoft's highest accreditations for CRM and cloud solutions. Our services including helping users across all CRM requirements, including training, consultancy, user support, as well as our managed service, and that combines break-fix support with a bank of consultancy and training hours. And if you're not currently working with us, we would be delighted to hear about your CRM requirements and to discuss how we can help you with Microsoft Dynamics. So as promised, I'm going to pass the presentation over to Daniel to get started with editable grids.
Thanks very much, Warren. Okay, let me just sort my screen out over here. I believe that is what we're looking for. So good afternoon, everybody. As Warren just mentioned, we're going to be going through a selection of the most recent and most interesting additions to Dynamics 365. Some of them will be available whether you're deployed on-premise or online, and some of them will be, I'm afraid, be online-only additions, but I'll flag those as and when we come through them. So if we just move on to our first item of the day, which is probably the most interesting and most exciting visual improvement in Dynamics 365 for quite a while, and that is the editable grids function. So just going to flip over to a sample Dynamics CRM site. There we go. So everybody will probably be familiar with your standard views layout, and you have your customizable views. You can insert the columns along here, filter them out as appropriate, save new views, etc., etc. But we're going to switch over now to our list of opportunities, which has been configured for the editable grid layout. And as we switch over, you'll notice an immediate difference. So first at the top here, we have got the ability to group our items by columns in our view. That's the first big improvement here. So at the moment we're grouping by rating, but as I drop down here, you can see any of the fields that I've got in my view here. I can actually group my results by those columns. So as an example, we went to probability, and now we're grouping by probability. Obviously low probability at the bottom, sorry, at the top, the higher probability at the bottom. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to switch back to the rating because that gives more of a pleasing output. So title of the function is editable grids. What does that mean? Well, previously with the old style views, you would need to actually go into a record to make any kind of change at all to a record. The view itself was a read-only access to the records. However, with the editable grid, we can actually now start working with our items actually within the view. So if we just wanted to move the estimated close date of this particular opportunity forward one day, and that is now saved down to the database. Again, we want to update our revenue. That's now done. So it saves a lot of time in moving, data around in the system. You don't need to, if you're going to do an update, like a line-by-line update of data, you don't need to be exporting it out to a system and then re-importing it back in or anything, or individually going into each record. Drop-down lists work in the same way. So these will appear, in this case, the rated drop-down will appear actually in the view here. So if we want to just quickly update this lead to say, actually that's not a good example, this one here, look, the 20% one, we'll decrease that down to cold. And you'll notice now, because we're grouping by rating, the cold rating is now appearing down at the bottom here. And you can collapse or expand these things as appropriate in the grouping view. So it does give quite a lot of power to you to actually be able to work with your data without actually simply having to go into all these individual records as you go along. Now, lookups, looking up to different entities within the system can be accessed again through the editable grid view. I'm going to just move over to my leads area here just to give an example of that. So in this particular view of leads here, again, we've got editable. So if we want to change the topics or anything, we wouldn't need to go into the record. We could just change it here. So I'm just going to call this the Adweek lead. Again, that's now saved. Now if we wanted to associate a source campaign with this lead, we're doing a lookup here and we can actually see all our various campaigns just in a little drop-down view without having to go into the record and go clicking on the thing, doing the lookup. We've actually now got access to this directly through the view. So it's a big improvement over what was previously available with Dynamics in terms of views and lists, but it is something that needs to be configured. So you'll need to work with either your CRM administrator or whoever it is that manages your CRM system to actually enable these views. They are controlled in the customizations area of CRM. So you can see here now grouping by owner, so we can collapse all Chris's leads up and just show my leads or whichever. So lots of power, and obviously the more columns you add to your view here, the more control you're going to have of how that displays. So just quickly going into how you'd look at configuring this sort of thing. If I just drop down here and go into customizations and customize the system, and that's obviously opened in a different window. I'll move this one up here. Okay, so if I drop this down and head down to my opportunities, which is here. And you'll see that on the top column here, we've got the new tab called Controls. This is where those editable grids are enabled or not. And we see here, we've now got a control in place here using the web view, and obviously these can be configured for phone and tablet views as well, independently of the web access. And we've enabled the editable grid view here. We could add inbuilt lookup filters. So if we only wanted to return certain things, then we could do that, and you could also enable other group by columns down here as well. So this is all controlled through the customization panel of CRM. If you're working with this in either a support or managed service capacity, then the guys over on the support desk will certainly be able to help you out with configuring that. Yeah, so this is editable grids. It can be obviously configured to be displayed on the main views, but also can be used in a subgrid, for example, on another entity form. So, for example, if you had a list of cases on an account, you'd be able to enable that case view to be an editable grid view. And then if you could then do the same sort of behavior across your entities in the same way that we've done with our opportunities here. So you'll be able to have one click into the view, reassign, update the information without actually having to open up the record and do it. So I think you'll agree that's quite an improvement over the previous list options within Dynamics 365. And yeah, as I said, if you want a bit more information about this, then please do get in touch. Okay. So that was editable grids. Moving along. Quite a pace because I've got quite a few things to get through. Item 2 on our list for today is the Organizational Insights Dashboard. So this is something currently that is online only and will be online only for the foreseeable future, and when we get into it you'll understand why. So just going to flip the system here. So this is a preview feature, so it's not currently live, but it is available to any CRM online or Dynamics 365 online customer to enable in their system, and that's controlled through your settings and system settings here, and you head across to the previews tab and you'll see here enable organizational insights preview. So that will need to be ticked to yes, and you'd need to accept the terms and conditions for preview things in Dynamics, but it's a couple of ticks and you're ready to go. And what that will then give you, if I just head over to the dashboards area, is the Organizational Insights Dashboard. Now what this is showing us now is engagement and usage of the platform by user and by activity. So for example, we can see here numbers of active users in the system over the last 2 hours, and again at the top here, each of these components has the 3-stage switching button here. So you've got last 2 hours, last 2 days, last month, and we can switch back between these and these will update in real time. And again, most active users changes in the database is an interesting one. And the way this works is you can actually turn off or turn on these particular types of update as you require them. So for example, we wanted to know anybody who's deleted any records in the last 2 days. There we go. We've now got a quick view of that. We can see, in this case, David's deleted 2 and Warren's deleted 1 record in the last 2 days. Push that out to 30 days, and we'll now see a more, a fuller picture of who's been doing what. If you're looking for engagement stuff like who's been creating records or who's been updating records, again, quick and easy to see this sort of thing. Specific active users performing specific operations. Now, this is more of a thing for your CRM administrator. So if you're monitoring performance on CRM platform and you want to see any periods in the day, for example, where lots of people are doing lots of things, you're experiencing slowdowns and you want to know why, then this is a good chart for you for that sort of thing. So you can see here, you've got your business day represented quite heavily here in the middle, and then in the early hours of the morning, there's very little going on. Total operations, again, so can be turned on, turned off. So for example, we just want to know creates and when they're happening in the day, then we can turn off everything else off apart from the create. And we've got a nice mouse overable chart that we can actually physically see who's doing what, when they're doing it, any bumps in activity in the system or unexplained activity in the system. Maybe there's an integration that you're using that sort of starts at a certain time of the day and causes maybe a slowdown in the system, then those can be identified in that way. So it's a read-only thing. I mean, it's useful from an administration point of view to kind of get an idea of not only how your system is behaving, but also the engagement of your users. So you'll always get the top 10 people doing various bits and pieces here. So if you want to know who's doing the most updates in your system, in our system, the .mailer user is by far the most active user because that's an integration. But underneath that, we can see here our actual users in the system, what they're doing, and we can see that over time. So it's a useful tool. As I said at the start, it is in preview at the moment, so you will have to accept a preview terms and conditions to be able to get access to this. But it has been in preview now for, I think, about a year. It was around in the old Dynamics CRM 2016 online and has moved over to 365, still in preview. So they may be looking to make more changes to this functionality as time goes on. But at the moment, this is what it is and how it stands. Okay. So that was the Organizational Insights dashboard. Next on our list is the relevance search. Now this again was available in Dynamics CRM 2016 online, but had some slight incremental improvements to the new Dynamics 365 platform. So we'll take a look at that now. Now again, this is online only, not available to on-premise customers, and this is because it utilizes an external search algorithm powered by Azure Search. So there is a search engine running outside of the CRM instance itself that's powering more interactive and intelligent searches based on what you're doing at the moment. So you will probably no doubt be familiar with the categorized search, the normal search in CRM. I do a search, I get the results that it matches. That's it, that's what it does. Now if we switch over to the relevance search and perform the same search, you'll notice that we've now got lots and lots more results for a start. We've got the little facets entity on the side here. So for example, if I know I'm looking for an email message, I can switch everything else off but email messages. And we can see underneath here, whereas previously before there were some records of mine and some records of Chris's. If I just select Chris's records, again that will just filter down to Chris's. We've got date sliders along here. So if I'm looking for a particular date and time of the record was either created or modified, I can amend these as so. So you can see here, less than a month ago, that's great. And that'll bring this down and sort of reduce the amount of search results we go in an inline view. So if I go more than a year ago, we get nothing. If I go more than a month ago, I get my 3 results. Now, the other benefit of relevant search is that it enables search logic to be enabled. So I can say, for example, search for subscription plus services, which will say I need to get subscription and services in the result that I'm looking for, which will effectively be the old categorized search. That's what that is representing there. However, if I say, for example, if I put a, there it is, subscription or services, now this will say, okay, well I will match on subscription, I will match on services, I will match on service. So it's more of an intelligent search than the categorized search, and this is where that Azure search comes in. So it's matching on service, even though you're searching for services. As well as that, it's also matching on servicing. Now, servicing, you can't get servicing out of services, but the search engine knows that servicing is a like word for service, so it's also returning that, thinking that might be what you're looking for. So it's much more of a powerful search tool, which is why it requires that external Azure search helper, effectively, and why it's an online only platform service. But if you're wanting to do, so you can make incredibly complex searches. So for example, I want to search for subscription services plus sample. There we go. So now it's returning service plus sample or subscription. So again, you can create some quite complex searches, way beyond what you could ever do with the normal standard CRM search, and that's where that the external Azure search aspect is drawn into this. When you've configured, it comes disabled by default. That's the first thing to bear in mind. So you won't have this out of the box if you haven't enabled it. And again, that is controlled through the administration area of CRM. So settings, administration, system settings. You'll find it in the general tab, I believe. There we go. And it's a tick box there, enable relevant search. And we can see entities extable for relevant search are syncing to an external search index. That's based in Azure. You can set up how that works in here. The first time you've set it up, it can take up to sort of an hour and a half for results to start feeding back into the database, just because of the way the search service works. And any changes that you might make in the database may take up to 15 minutes before they're sort of brought back into your search results for relevant search in the system, because it's working with that external service. But on an ongoing basis, it's a way more powerful search tool than the normal categorized search, and certainly worth taking a look at if you have access to that. Okay, so that was relevant search. What else have we got today? Number 4, business rules. So business rules have been around for a little while now, but if you're not familiar with how business rules work or what their purpose are, it can be a great time saver in terms of CRM customization work. So people, those of you who have already got Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365 will be familiar with wanting to amend things on forms or make something happen when you click a button, and previously up to this point it has required the involvement of either a coder or a partner in order to code out some kind of JavaScript behind the scenes to run in tandem with the CRM form to make that sort of capabilities possible. Now, business rules is intended to replace that requirement for JavaScript. So in the case we're looking at here, we've got an account record for a sample company, and we've got some business rules in place that do some stuff. So in this case, we've got business rules in place that when I say that phone contact with this company is not allowed, you'll notice that the phone number just vanishes. And if I say it is allowed, the phone number comes back. And the same with the fax. So we can hide, we can show fields, we can make them required or not as appropriate. So I do both, they'll both vanish. I click them both back, they'll both appear again. And those of you who have CRM already may notice that the responsiveness of this is way over and above what any kind of JavaScript is going to enable you to do, because it's actually built into the system as it goes. So if you've got business rules already, you may be familiar with the old Business Rules Designer, very text-based. That's also been replaced in Dynamics 365 with the Visual Process Designer, which we'll also take a look at. So just pop that up there. So there we go. This is now the Visual Process Designer. As we can see here, we're looking at one of those business rules that we had in place here. Still got the text representation down the bottom here, so you can read through it and understand what it's supposed to be doing. So if do not allow phone calls equals do not allow, then set the main phone as not business required and hide it. Otherwise, don't hide it, and set it as business required. So it's a very simple flow, but the new graphical view of setting this out enables you to create very complex business rules that will allow quite sophisticated actions to be taking place on your CRM forms, but still be able to be readable from a user point of view. Another example of this is I've put one in place for an opportunity. So we go over to opportunities here. I'll pick out one of my editable grids. I'll pick out one of my little opportunities here. Open that one up. Come on. There we go. So in this case, our business rule will offer a discount based on the purchase time frame of the opportunity in question. So if I go over here and I select that the purchase time frame is immediate, you'll notice up in the top corner we've got a locked discount field. So we can't manually edit the discount field in this case, but if I set that it's that they're going to be purchasing immediately we're offering a 5% discount. So things like that where we're changing the value of fields, even drop down fields or even blank kind of entry fields, we can still control that via business rules as well. So again, removes the need from JavaScript to do any of that sort of business. And these are all editable and controllable through the business rules editor with that nice visual view. I'm just going to deactivate this one for a minute so we can take a little bit more look at this, how these work. Okay, so the first thing we're looking at here is a condition. And we can see that the condition saying of the entity, if the field do not allow phone calls equals do not allow, the yes goes along with tick. So what we're doing here is setting main phone to be not business required. So we're taking away that requirement to have it filled in, and then we're hiding the field. So setting it not visible. However, if the do not allow phone calls equals allow, then we suddenly set visibility again, and then we set the field to be business required so that you can't not have a phone number in the system. Other things you can do with business rules. So if I just head back over to my account record here, So we've got go back to our datum here, and we've got a website listed in the company thing here. Now, if I get rid of this and save the record, a little thing will pop up here, a little warning thing. I click on that. You've got no website. You should really find out what their website is. So if you're not wanting to make things business required for whatever reason, but you still want to have a little pop-up here to let users know that they should be filling this in, and maybe the reason why they should be filling it in, then you can use these sort of actions inside the business rules to make that sort of thing possible. So as soon as I fill this back in again, that will vanish away. Adatum.com. There we go. And that little warning's now vanished away because we have a website there. So again, something that would previously require some level of scripting or anything else can now be done natively through CRM, through Dynamics 365 or CRM as it was called, and you can do that as a user or as an administrator without having to rely on coders or developers to do that sort of thing for you. So again, giving that power over customization and configuration to you as the customer gives you the ability to make these changes, do those rules, build those business rules yourself, understand how they're working, and then make changes to them because of this nice, easy to follow business process designer. Okay, so that was business rules. Again, very powerful, giving power from what typically was before, requiring coders or developers to do, gives CRM people the power to make those sort of things for themselves. Next on our list is one-click documents. So again, this is something that has been in CRM for a little while now, but is worth talking about because, again, it gives a lot of power to users, basically. It's basically the theme for today, giving power to the CRM users that was traditionally they would need to get other people involved to sort things out for. So you may well be using this already, you may not be, but the one-click documents are controlled via the templates area in CRM. So if you go to settings and templates, you'll find document templates in here, and you'll see we've already got some pre-configured here. I've got one custom one here, our quote report, and we've got the ones that come out of the box as standard. So if you have Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365 already, you may well find that you have these available in your system, whether you're using them or not. So it might be worth taking a look at them to see whether you might benefit from this sort of thing. So they work with Word and Excel. That's the first thing to point out here. So if I go over to, again, let's go back to my, I'm going to use the history thing here, go back to my account record, and on the side here I'll see Word templates. If I push this out, available to me immediately is the account summary report. So I can click that, it will generate a template in Word and throw out a predefined account summary report to Word. Where's Word gone? There. So we can see there, this is all information pulling directly from the CRM record. So we've got the little CRM graphic in here, the company name, all this stuff, and a list of recent opportunities, a list of recent cases. So if you need that, if you've got a requirement that sort of that requires this sort of reporting, then that can easily be achievable out of the box with document templates. And that's one that's going to Word. So typically, document template reports that you run on a single record would export to Word. Document templates that you run on multiple records, for example, if we head over to our opportunities records here, back into our lovely editable grid, and we go to Excel templates at the top here, we now have the pipeline management Excel template. So this is one that runs across all records in the view. So again, we go into here, open that one up, bring it over. And you can see here we've got what would traditionally be a pivot table report of the pipeline straight from CRM straight into an Excel sheet. So if you need to do reporting based in Excel, or your management team require an Excel report on the end of the month, or whichever else, that can easily be achieved through document templates. Document templates themselves can be created from scratch. So we've in this case we've got one done here for a quote. So if you're using Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365 at the moment, you may well have a quote report that you use for sending out to your customers, and traditionally that would have been either an SSRS report for CRM on-premise or Effect XML report for CRM online. Just going to quickly create a quick quote here. Yeah, okay, customer price list. Lovely. So I'm just going to add a quick write-in product here. So this is my test item. Price per unit is £500. And we're going to have 20 of those. I said 20. There we go. So now we've got our lovely £10,000 quote. I can now go to our Word template. So previously I would have had to go to run report and run our quote report, but now we've got our own Word template quote. So again, we'll just throw it straight out to a document. So now we've got our quote with all our company stuff in here, pushing out the quote with the quote items, and we've got a sign-off thing at the bottom here. But it gives you a lot more power to kind of create these things yourself. So if you want to create a report, a template report, a quote report, an order template, that sort of thing, document templates is where you need to be looking these days. Creating these you do in Word. So there is there's a bit of messing about you need to do in Word to be able to enable the correct tabs to do this sort of thing, but you need to go over to, where is it? Over in the ribbon, no, yes, customize the ribbon. It's the developer area that we want. Yeah, so it's this area down the bottom. You need to tick that, and then you'll enable the developer tab at the top here, and that will give the ability to pull information from Dynamics CRM using this XML mapping pane. But again, if you have a support agreement with us or a managed service agreement with us, this is something that the guys will be able to help you out with. So if you have any queries about this, do get in touch and we can look at those offline. Anyway, that was one-click documents. So finally today, embedded Power BI. Now, those of you who have spoken to me before or have dealt with me before might know I've got a bit of secret love for Power BI. So this change that they've made to Dynamics 365 is, in my opinion, really very exciting. So previously before, you could, through Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365, have embedded widgets within your dashboards for Power BI. So again, some of you might already have this. So as you're probably aware, there's a maximum of 6 things that you can have on a dashboard. So if you go to New Dashboard here, you will be presented with the choose the layouts, and each of these layouts will have no more than 6 little windows that you can put stuff into. So any BI reporting that you're doing externally, you will be limited to 6 of those charts or visuals being brought back and represented into Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365. This is all now changed. Hooray! So now in Dynamics 365, we can now create a new Power BI dashboard. So if I drop down to here, this will connect directly to my Power BI service and ask me which of my Power BI dashboards I want to bring into CRM. So as you can see here, our retail analysis sample dashboard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there's no limit on the number of stuff you can bring in. So if I go over to our, here we go, I've already done this one. That exists now as a dashboard. So it's just another dashboard in my thing. But if I select that now, that is bringing the whole dashboard that I've already built in Power BI, exposing that into Dynamics CRM. So a lot more powerful than it previously was. We don't need to mess around with bringing in various bits and pieces and deciding which thing we want to show and which thing we don't. We could build a, I've cut this off here and I've got a lot of white space that I could potentially be using, but if I arrange this so that it was the same resolution as my screen, we could have a lot of different information being pulled through in one Power BI dashboard directly back into CRM and having this obviously updating on those Power BI schedules. Same as before. So if we want to open that directly in Power BI, we've got a button at the top here. So it's not changed as the way previously where you would click on the tile and it would bring up an overlay screen. We can now just open this directly in BI. So we click on that, goes over to the BI, and we can now make changes to our thing as appropriate. So if I just change that up like that and I put this one over here, there we go, immediately changed. So again, gives you a lot more power. So if you're already using Power BI, you're fairly happy with it, how it works, or you're already starting to create your first Power BI dashboards and sheets, you can now bring those in. You can share them with your users and your other people in the company, and they can be having those as Power BI dashboards available to view on login. So I can set that as my default dashboard, and that will now become, every time I log in the morning, that could be the first thing I'm looking at. So lots of power to you as the users to get this sort of thing exposed and available for you. So that's Power BI Embedded. Okay, so I think that is the end of, as far as my presentation goes. Yes, it is. So I'll just hand back over to Warren for any other follow-up stuff for today.
Yeah, super. Thanks, Daniel. Great stuff. So just to finish up, I wanted to spend a moment or so mentioning about Dynamics 365, because obviously this is now available and Microsoft has begun the process to begin migrating people from CRM Online to Dynamics 365. And that can be done at the renewal of an existing agreement, but there are some advantages in doing it earlier to get access to many of the entitlements that Microsoft has added compared to what was available in CRM Online, and certainly with the professional license. And that includes extra storage, the self-service web portals that we previously demonstrated, and also a non-production instance for CRM. Now on our blog you'll find a series of posts that we've shared to explore the new service and what this means for Dynamics CRM users. So that's freely available. What we've also created is a transitioning guide, and I'm sharing that on the console at the moment, so if you want to download that, that's available. We'll also email that separately. So in this guide it really just sort of provides an overview of the Dynamics 365 licensing, and it sort of expands the Plan 1 option, which we're finding is the most popular choice for Dynamics CRM customers who are moving over to Dynamics 365. We'll happily help if you do have any questions about that transitioning process, so please do get in touch if you have any questions about that. So that concludes the presentation for this afternoon. We'll stay online to pick up the questions that you've been asking. And if you want to find out more about any of the functions that Daniel covered and how these can be configured on your own Dynamics CRM or 365 system, do get in touch and we'll be happy to help you. So we're just going to pause for a few moments and take a look through the questions.